What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Building Code. I'm Charley Vesel.
And I'm Courtney Matern.
Courtney, this is second time in a week. We've got the absolute pleasure of being together. Has anything changed since the last time I saw you?
No, I'm still fired up for 2025. I'm looking forward to the International Builder Show. I'm not going to let anybody forget. It's happening at the end of February. We're letting Charley out of the building. We will both be there. And I'm really excited to have we're doing a lot of start the year right, because it's still not too late. It's still the end of January.
Absolutely. And on a personal note, our Instagram and TikTok is picking up.
Yeah.
I was going through the other night. We got some comments. People are engaging. It's looking really good.
Yeah. If you haven't connected with us on social media, at the end of the year, we started our own Instagram channel, TikTok channel, so you can get all the amazing clips that we have from the podcast. There's just so much we realize. Every guest brings so many little nuggets of knowledge, so we wanted to chop those up and serve them up in a nice so
if you don't have time if you don't have time to listen to a 30-minute interview, you can listen to a 30-second video.
How have you felt about your newfound Instagram, TikTok fame? Because I feel like our team, there's a lot of super cuts of us.
Nothing has changed at all in my day-to-day life.
Oh, there's not anybody rolling into your DMs being we want to sponsor you.
No, because people were already coming up to me and asking me for autographs and take pictures with me. So this specific.
So you already tamped that down.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense.
Okay, enough about us. I'm rambling. Courtney, we have a very exciting guest today for a very scary time of the year. Who do we have and what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, so Karine Woodman, founder and CEO of 24-Hour Bookkeeper, is joined by her employee Michelle, and they're here to talk about, bookkeeping. Tax time is upon us. It's a really scary time of the year. I do look forward to there being a day when tax time isn't so scary for everyone out there, individuals, business owners, but they're going to give us some financial management tips. And you've been working with 24-Hour Bookkeeper for a while. They're one of our partners. Yeah,
absolutely. So we have had a long-standing relationship with 24-Hour, but just recently signed it in ink, and they're one of our formal partners. It's a pain point that we are not well equipped to serve for our customers. We wanted to find the best in the industry to come and serve that pain point, and 24-Hour is absolutely one of the best in the industry. So if you're listening to this and you're a Buildertrend customer, you can talk to your rep at any time and they can put you in contact with 24-Hour, and vice versa. If you're listening to this, you're a 24-Hour customer and you're excited about Buildertrend, same way, they can put you in contact with any of us. So super exciting. I've had the pleasure of meeting with Karine and Michelle multiple times. They are fantastic. It's going to be great.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get them in here. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Karine. Welcome to The Building Code. Really appreciate you guys making the time to join us today. How's it going?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We are fired up to talk to you guys today. But I was going to say I get to talk to you guys more frequently than most, but excited to have you here in a formal setting, recording all the awesome conversations that we have. But for those people listening that haven't had the opportunity to meet you before, would love just kind of quick intros and tell us a little bit about 24-Hour Bookkeeper.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Karine Woodman. I am the founder and CEO of the company. And we focus primarily on construction companies who need financial help, management, everything in between. And right now, my biggest focus is helping onboard new clients.
And I'm Michelle. I'm a process implementation specialist. I feel like that's such a fancy title, but I've worn a lot of different hats here at 24-Hour Bookkeeper, and I've really kind of settled into that. And I specifically help clients get their Buildertrend set up that's going to work for them. I help them build those processes and have those discussions of why it's not working and all that exciting stuff. So
our teams at Buildertrend, we've known 24-Hour Bookkeeper for almost a decade. Karine, tell us what inspired you to, get started with this company and found it. What issues were you seeing that you thought you could solve?
Yeah, I actually worked in commercial glass. We did a lot of install commercial storefronts. We did a lot of schools and big projects, and I had been in the field for almost 5 years. And when I started this business, we kind of helped everybody, but really found that working in construction was where we were the most strong and really able to help. Because as everyone knows, construction accounting is difficult. Add construction accounting and now add software implementations and things like that. So, and then ever since then, we've, had our relationship with Buildertrend and have just continued to grow our brand in helping just construction companies throughout the country.
That's awesome. And it's super timely to have you on here. I think this episode airs January 30th. So we're just kicking off the new year. By January 30th, most people's like personal New Year's resolutions have probably dropped off, but hopefully not their financial New Year's resolutions. So what are you guys kind of focusing on at the beginning of the year with your clients, making sure they get the year kind of started off right?
Yeah, I think a big thing is just really, and Karen can kind of touch on, looking backwards, right? Obviously, that's kind of, the biggest thing is closing out 2024 and what things you should do. And I'll let Karen go into detail about that. But I think the biggest thing is what pains you, right? I mean, that's what everyone looks at when they go to their New Year's resolution. It's like, I got to change something because this did not work. We do that personally, but I think both professionally, we also kind of reflect in January to say, okay, I don't want to be in this situation again next year. And then why? And everybody's why or what their pain point is always a little different. In general, I would say the biggest thing is just, kind of systemizing, right? You think you have a system or you think you have that time dedicated or you think you have that process, but I'm pretty sure at least one of your processes. And the thing too is software always changes. So, I was just talking to a client the other day and he's like, we've been using Buildertrend for a long time, but I guess I've never really adapted my processes to some of the changes for the better. So I think even if you think you have those processes dialed in, I think sometimes it's a good time also to reflect and say, okay, what changes has the software made that can positively impact my business and free up potentially more time and kind of just for the better. So I always say, like, just take the time to reflect on that pain point and where can we lean into software that the changes that software has made, how do we kind of keep catching up every year in January with what new is down the road now.
Do you think when business owners get to this time of the year that there is anything, like, is it too late if there's something that they're worried about from the previous year to fix the problem?
Well, I was just going to say, on the 30th, you're thinking 1099s because they are due. And with 1099s, it's just not as easy as like literally just completing the forms and calling it good. You need W-9 forms. You need to make sure you're putting the right numbers. And we don't have a lot of leeway when it comes to literally going from January 1 to January 31 and getting all that organized. So a lot of our clients, we've been working on that over the last 2 months, just making sure like we're tidying up the subcontracted agreements, the forms that we need, making sure that everything is tagged appropriately so we can help with getting that organized so it doesn't feel like such a burden. I think it feels like that no matter what. So if you're feeling it, everyone's feeling it. But the idea is just to be thinking about what can we have done throughout the year to maybe reduce some pain of what we're feeling right now. Because it is not necessarily too late, but like Michelle's saying, you're thinking a lot, probably in November, December. It's going to be a new year. I'm going to start this. I'm going to make these changes. I'm looking at that. And you're already kind of rolling in January and you're really probably focused on tax time. Because your deadlines are coming due and you don't want to potentially for the first time have an extension. You might want to file on time, something you're thinking about. So how could you potentially do that and progress in the right direction as you move forward?
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I have found super interesting about, getting the opportunity to work with you guys is you're not just kind of a, here's what your numbers look like. Nice job, we're done now. You like actually work with them to like interpret them and like kind of strategically plan how to improve them for the next year. It'd be great if you could maybe share a couple specific examples, not like, people you've worked with, but like things that you found early on in the year that you've been able to kind of catch and adjust, moving into the next year.
Should I take this one, Michelle? And you can probably jump in there.
Yeah.
So I think bookkeeping in general just has this misconception of what it really is. So I think when you work with a partner or a bookkeeping company that truly is niche and specific to construction, they can provide you a better understanding of what you are missing. Because there's the compliance side, which means my financials on the QuickBooks end is good, but my job related detail is not good. It's not matching on this side, or I was maybe half doing it here and half doing it there. So I think the main thing that we want to maintain ongoing to help in general is everything tagged to a project? Because our goal is to manage our budgets on the Buildertrend side. Well, if you don't have everything in there, you can't really manage a budget, which then therefore you're not managing your profitability. we're killing ourselves all day. So we want to make sure we're doing it for good reason. We also want to make sure everything's like reconciled and updated. And it's a word that gets thrown around like, oh, well, I updated my bank feeds or my registers are correct. But when you're managing accounts payable, as in your bills for your subcontractors and your suppliers, there's room for like error on duplication. So being able to focus on good process to manage that. So we look for that. And then a lot of the times we want to make sure that we're catching any type of payees missing, because our goal, if we're doing 1099s, for example, if you don't have this expense tagged to this vendor or sub, you can't really produce a 1099 because it's not going to show up on other reporting. So there's little tiny things like that we're really looking for.
I always like to make sure too, like your accounts receivable is accurate. I think we focus a lot on payables because it's the biggest and heaviest portion as a builder, right? You get those tons of receipts and tons of this. And but another big thing for year end is making sure all those invoices, went out and that you did have your income all tagged to customers, because that's a big thing when you think about recognizing revenue and what, ultimately what you're going to pay taxes on, right? That's what everybody cares about, right? Like what revenue, what is my bottom line? What am I going to have to pay taxes on at the end of that? And that's how you can, and so making sure that all your customers are invoiced up to date, that the invoice dates are correct, that you've received money correctly in QuickBooks, that you've reflected all that and tied a nice tidy bow on that revenue is also a big portion of that, kind of year-end process you don't want to miss, because nobody wants to pay taxes on more than nobody wants duplicated revenue. It looks good when you want to go get that line of credit, but not when you want to file your taxes. So just keeping an eye on that too, and just understanding your AP and AR that can kind of hide on the back end, making sure those are up to date.
It's tempting to talk about this time of year, like it's tax season. That can be really overwhelming for business owners, but the reality is, for the most successful businesses, hopefully tax day isn't the only time that you're thinking about getting your finances in order. And with any good habit, consistency, small behaviors, and just those little tweaks can make a difference in the long run. What would be your advice to some contractors and construction company owners heading into the new year? What are some of those small things that they could maybe be consistent at that would make managing their finances better, and so that when they maybe one day they'll get to this time of year and not say, well, it's tax season?
Well, Courtney, you had mentioned earlier too, like, is it too late? And, it was kind of an interesting question, because it's like, it's never too late, but you do hit a point where you're like, right, tax season and last year, that's in the rear view, right? And there still is there's still the front windshield to look out. And so, sometimes, yes, I can't necessarily make a whole lot of changes as to what I did. Yes, I need to clean it up and get my numbers allocated properly. But going forward, so that's why I say, like, it's not too late, because you still need to clean it up and get it compliant, but it's not too late to learn from it or reflect back on it. So one thing I kind of always tell people is make the time. And number two, delegate. Right. Because I think, and you all know, there's probably a business owner out there who is still doing their bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right. And I always tell them, we know it's not that you can't do it. Right. Some people it is like, I can't and I don't want to. And some people hang on to it. And there comes a time where it's like, my advice is like, it's time to let go, because when you're in the weeds of it, wouldn't you rather be looking at it and understanding it and analyzing it versus being 10,000, being down deep and you can't see the forest through the trees, right? That's the saying. And sometimes when you're the business owner and you're doing the day to day and you're writing the check here and writing the check there, instead of, let me just look from 10,000 foot. What did I pay in subcontractors this year? What did I pay in my overhead? Did we pay our rent? Oh, look, the rent and insurance went up, right? It's so much easier. Like, that's my biggest advice, is like, get out of the weeds and delegate entering, delegate your data entry, and put someone in place who can really help you reflect on those numbers and take the time to analyze this here versus being stuck doing.
And I would add, sometimes if we're on the job site all day or we're managing an office, whatever the case may be, it's always bookkeeping or all the pieces get kind of pushed to the back burner, because it's like, I'll get to it. And typically in this industry, a week ago is too far back. So we're talking about a whole year, but having to remember what I bought for this and who did I need from this, and do they have the receipt that maybe is in a truck somewhere if we even get it, like whatever the case may be. So I think just trying to recognize that the small steps on the everyday, like get the receipts in, get the job information, provide the detail that you're being asked, because actually that will go a long way in just keeping up. So those are things that are hard to go back 6, 7 months and then try to job cost. And then back to what Michelle was saying on AR, I mean, you're leaving money on the table then, right? If you're cost plus, you're not accounting for everything. It goes a long way in that aspect that we don't want to. We want to get as much money as we can, obviously, in our business in the right way.
Getting our business owners out of the weeds is a big reason we have these partnerships. When you say, Charley, and you have been really involved in connecting our builders with experts like 24-hour Bookkeeper.
Yeah, I think the general ethos that spans from, whether it's a software company or a bookkeeping company or any other number of construction adjacent things that our customers meaning Buildertrend, need to use. I think what we found is like they've done it for so long and they've made it work that it's almost tough to admit that there is a better way out there. It's like, oh, we could use a software for this, or we could offload this to a team of experts to do it for me. And I'm sure you just alluded to it, Michelle. Like, it's not that you can't do it. It's just is that really where you want to be spending your time? And I think that's what we're seeing the industry shift to more and more, is understanding the value of their time and being really, really intentional around where they want to focus their time in order to get their companies to meet the goals that they have for themselves personally. So it was, when you were talking, I was just kept thinking, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we hear the same time with selling software.
Yeah. And it's a lot to keep up with. And to add to that, like, what is their time worth? So what's your time worth? Bookkeeping is something, for example, you can delegate. I think what the hardest part about that is to feel like you're losing control. So there is this thing, we'll just even use something like the cost in box, right? I need to look at every transaction that comes in there because that gives me control to know what's, where we're spending money. But that's not where you're going to manage that. You're going to manage that on your budget. So it's understanding where is the true control, and you can still have all the control. It just doesn't have to be in the details. And that's something that is a bit of a mindset shift. And then add the fact that it's software. Like, if we didn't have Michelle on our team, even for us, it is a lot to keep up with. So now try to be the business owner who is doing, wearing 50 hats, and then just trying to keep up with new features, new workarounds. What is everybody else doing? There is value in working with someone who understands that, who also understands what you're going through every day and can potentially get you an answer quicker than feeling you have to research, or there's just a lot of extra value in having another person on the team.
100%. So here's my sales pitch disguised as a question for you guys. So if they are looking to delegate something like this to a bookkeeping service, where do you kind of draw the line? Like, what sort of things do you manage for them versus what kind of things do you guide them that you still kind of have to do in order for us to be able to do their job? What does that kind of interplay look like between you guys and a client that you would serve in the construction space?
I can speak to the monthly side. I think we've always been we can do as much or as little as a person needs, but we really, at minimum, would take care of the month end and the weekly register upkeep, because that is where we find errors. And we want to be able to stop the train to ask the questions. And so we do that at minimum, which is really the core of your financials. So if nothing else, I'll just say, if job costing isn't at its best, at least our compliance will be. All our accounts will be reconciled. We'll be able to pull a profit and loss and balance sheet, AP and AR, and we're good. We can help, and we do quite a bit of accounts payable. So we will enter everything on the Buildertrend side. We will enter on the QuickBooks side. We also can do billing. And then we have just processes to help keep up ongoing. And then more and more, I think people really want to get to the point with us. So it's not even anymore so much about like this transaction, this transaction, that. It's, okay, I want to make sure everything's billed. I want to make sure that this budget line item is right. I have these situations, I have operations issues that I need to work through, and I know what they are. So again, it's just having that partner to have a conversation that understands the industry, understands QuickBooks and Buildertrend, third-party software.
And a big thing too that we don't try to do is there's a project management piece that comes with the financial aspect of building a home, right? And those two streams kind of overlap, right? When you're spending money and you have budgets, yes, that can be a bookkeeping task, but that can also be a project management, responsibility. So there is some when we work with you monthly, you kind of asked what do they do versus what we do. I think a big thing is owning the cost coding portion of it, owning some of the approvals to say, yes, this subcontractor did not, yes, he actually showed up on the job, and yes, we can actually pay him because he did complete the work. So having some project management approval within those workflows and the responsibility to say, yep, this guy came in, he put in new flooring, he also did the cabinetry, because we won't know, right? The only person who knows is the person who's on the job site or the one who's taking photos, or right? So there is some responsibility, but we try to make it more of a project management than a data entry bookkeeping task to say, hey, let us get it 50% of the way there. We're going to enter that bill, we're going to enter that receipt, we're going to throw it to be coded, we know what job it's for, but I need you to approve it and I need you to verify that it's going to go hit your budget correctly. So that's a big portion that we kind of don't take on or can't take on, and rightfully so. That's what gives you still some of that control and visibility and responsibility of your project financials.
If I can add, one really big piece of being successful in working with an outsourced bookkeeping company or a partner for us is definitely collaboration. Like Michelle's saying, we don't know what cost code it is when you go to a lumber yard, because you can buy just about anything you want there. So if it takes a really long time to get that information from you and we can't keep up with it on a regular basis, we already know we're not going to be successful in the long term, because when you need something, we can't give it to you because we need your collaboration and we need you to take the time, and we get it. We are not the most favorite thing that most people have to do. However, once you kind of get in there, you kind of get a flow, and then that is more manageable, when we have a process in place.
On the front end of this interview, we talked a little bit about, how you narrowed in onto this industry specifically. And last week we had a friend on from Business on Purpose, Scott Beebe, talking about how they're more than just a builder. They have money coming in and out. There's several purchases that they're making, like $1 in is actually less than that because they have to spend that dollar on the supplies and materials, and it's so complex. Do you think that's part of the beauty of working in this industry? Like, what do you think are some unique aspects about construction businesses that draw you to this work?
Ooh, draw or fell into it?
That held you hostage. It's like Stockholm syndrome. We fall for these amazing businesses and then we just can't escape.
I tell you,
I can go ahead, Karen.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I kind of fell in love with I went to school for nursing, which is so not the construction field, right? But when I kind of think of how I ended up here, it was really like, I like efficiency. I don't like to work harder than I have to. In nursing, you have to be efficient. You only have so much time, you have so many patients. And that's how I feel about the construction industry. I enjoy helping people. So you can see the need for the help, and you can see the need for the help for organization, and just someone to come in and say, this is how we're going to do it. Let me run this ship. I'm comfortable with the financials. Let me put the process in place. Trust me. Let's go. You run the business. I don't know how to build a home. I know enough to be dangerous, but you don't want me swinging a hammer. So I think for me, that's always been the appeal of the construction industry is just the need. And, and they're willing, they're usually willing because they don't know, and they know there's a better way, but they're kind of like, hey, help. And they're not afraid. A lot of them aren't afraid to say that. And that makes it a really fun group of people to work with. And I think that no two problems are the same. So I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of builders in all my implementation and everywhere I've been at this company and just the 9 years I've been here. And I can tell you what, even yesterday I was on a call and I was like, oh, I've never heard that one, right? It's always new, and there's always a new challenge, which I find exciting, because if you're having that challenge, that can only help the next person that comes along, because somebody else might be having the same struggle. So I really just like, there's just so much to it. It's never the same. There's so many layers.
Yeah, I definitely say clients keep us on our toes. I think it's nice. It's so technical, and it sounds, and sometimes I think I tell myself, like, why is it so complicated? Like, why is it? I think it's just the nature of the beast. You know, when you literally think of one small receipt belongs to one job in one moment through the process, and that one receipt has to end up potentially on an invoice for that customer. And then you have bigger things like relationships and employees and running a business. I think we're definitely in the business of helping people because of our level of technical knowledge. We can also help from an understanding standpoint. I think sometimes when people reach out to us, they're afraid to get judged. It just is hard. And I think we're just about moving it forward. And we can tell you if somebody else might have implemented that worked. We can dissect what you're doing and put it back together. It's exhausting as well, right? Like there's never a moment of like, let's do something easy, but there is a lot of validation from feeling like you're really helping people, and it feels really good in that aspect.
Yeah, I think that's why you guys are so valuable. This construction is such a nuanced business and a nuanced way to run a business that, you know, a standard out of the box bookkeeping service would have a hard time catching up and knowing all those intricacies that you guys have ingrained over your heads, you know, working with hundreds, if not thousands of contractors that are dealing with the same problems that they are. That's like a problem or something that people don't often want to admit, that like other people have figured out this problem before. It has to be just me. I'm the only one that's dealing with this right now. Right. But at the end of the day, that's just not the case. And that's why leaning on experts, not just to provide the bookkeeping service, but provide the guidance of here's how other people have solved the same pain point that you're solving with right now, is another thing that I see a lot of similarities between 24-hour and Buildertrend.
I can be really... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add earlier when you're talking about like New Year's resolutions, and Michelle's talking about, you know, like we're just talking about changing process. And to what you're saying, Charley, the feeling of like there's got to be a better way. So when you're sitting there at the end of the night and you're Googling to figure out like, how can I do this better? Like there's got to be a level of research in some capacity that someone is trying to relieve some pain in implement. Because we do this, I think that's probably the biggest thing we can help do. We can make you feel like you can progress where it feels simpler. It's more efficient. We could probably throw some automations in there. We can talk about some of these tools and maybe some functionalities within what you're already using that you're probably not even realizing is available to you to make your life easier. So it's just that little feeling of there is a better way, and there is, and somebody can probably just tell you what it is, you know, in some simple ways.
Our video team went out to visit a customer in Utah, Tyler Farrell of Killowen Homes, and he has a video. We have a video series on it, but he says like, gosh, it's always been my dream to build these dream homes. And it'd be so nice if money didn't matter, but at the end of the day, it does. And that's why it's so rewarding at Buildertrend to help these builders, like connect them with resources like you, or help them be more efficient, because gosh, we want them to build our homes because they are so good at it. They're so amazing. And the way that these customers that we hear on the podcast, the way they give back to their community, like thank goodness there's a solution. Yeah. There is an answer so that someone else can help them with the money part when they have that feeling that there's got to be a better way, so they can keep building these amazing homes and building our communities. So yeah, that's very gratifying.
And recognizing financial is just one piece. You know, you've got customers' requests, having to work through timelines and schedules and weather and supply issues, whatever the case may be. We're just one of, you know, many pieces to the pie. But
yeah, for our listeners listening, last week's episode was all about like ending the chaos. And there's so many things that so many ways that chaos presents itself, and it's never ending. It's many different monsters. So it's things like your finances, it's meeting customer expectations. It could be employee turnover. So we're trying to fight all of those monsters one by one.
It's just financial. You know, that's the thing that we have to remember. We can't really push this one to the back burner. At the end of the day, it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, so don't wait till tax season.
Yeah. Michelle, you were jumping in there.
No, and time, you know, right? We talked about just your time, and, you know, like you said, there's just so many great people trying to, you know, you started this business everyone has some probably end goal. And I'm sure the end goal isn't to be doing everything and wearing every hat in your company. And, you know, even us at our company, we talk about like, did this save us time? And sometimes it doesn't save you time, but it saves you pain and stress and worry just to have somebody else to say, okay, someone else tell me this is right. Like I didn't go to school for finance and I think I did this right, but I'm not 100% sure. And that can keep people up at night, right? It's like, I know how to do it. I can do it, but like, I just need validation and I need to know that like tomorrow, if I didn't collect anything, like what's that going to cost me? What's it going to cost me to run my business every single month? And those are big, important numbers that, outside we've talked a lot about just job and project financials, but at the end of the day, what does it cost me to keep my lights on for this business, for my employees? What does payroll cost me? How much do I need? What is my break even? And that's it's a big term and you can throw out big, KPIs and things like that, but that's a big one. And just to simplify it, it's like, what do I have to do to keep this business alive? Like, how much do I have to collect? What at the end of the day is that? And sometimes just knowing that and knowing someone's paying attention to that can just help you sleep better at night. I mean, at the end of it, right? Just might take some of the stress off.
Not wanting to rob from Peter's project to, pay for Paul. And I think that's what also happens. We're getting 50, 100K in the door. How much does that really belongs to me? I think that's one really big question that most people have. And there's a lot of ways that we can identify what that looks like, but it really goes down to process, and you've got the deposit, function in Buildertrend and implementing something like that and being able to manage from a different view. There's just all these little things that we don't think are important, but they really contribute to the bigger picture of the ultimate goal of what we're doing.
You guys are really good. Every time we talk to anything like on the podcast, like finance related, I'm like, I got to go home and get my personal finances in order. Like,
I need to take
there is a better way for me too. Like, I can also do this. What were you going to say, Courtney?
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. I need to take my own advice. I'm always the one who's like, that's one time of the year. I'm like, it's tax season. But I guess my dream for myself, just like for our builders, is that someday tax day rolls around without a sweat. Like nothing is keeping them up at night, that instead of worrying about like, did I do everything last year correct? They're getting a good night's sleep and maybe they're at, Mark Williams sauna camp getting, more well. And, there's just, there's other places for them to put their time and energy as business owners. And I think there is an element too of asking for help or knowing that there's someone that they can go to ask for. So that's definitely part of Buildertrend's mission, is like connecting the right experts with our customers and creating community and connection so that they can sleep well at night.
Yeah, and we know entrepreneurship can be a lonely place. Mm-hmm. And then when you think of talking about your financials, you can't really talk about it with your friends, and you can't really talk about it with your employees. I mean, unless they're part of your finance department. So sometimes being able to work through ideas or work through problems and not feeling like there's judgment or someone has more information than they need to have. I think that's also a big valuable piece that, again, it is hard and you don't have to navigate it on your own. We work really hard to place everything where it needs to be for your tax preparer, for your CPA, for tax time, because we don't do actual taxes, but we get everything ready for that. And we can collaborate with your CPA and tax preparer so that even sometimes people say they speak another language, like they're asking to us clear questions on the financials, but it's like, I have no idea what they're asking. Can you just take care of it? Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So if our listeners are as fired up as I am, and they want to hit the ground running, what is one thing that you guys would recommend that they can do this month to set them up for success the rest of the year?
Besides finding a partner that is a good fit for you, like 24-hour bookkeeper, I would say just pick a process that is like hard and just break it down on a sheet of paper and write some steps. Because if you don't build expectations for others, they'll never meet what you might get mad because they're never doing it right in whatever capacity that is. And it could be the smallest process, but just find something and figure out a way to improve it by just writing down the steps that make the most sense for you.
And I would say, right along with that's the biggest thing. If I could pick one, if I went really, really low, I would say figure out a receipt management process. Mm. It's something that just builds and builds, and it will keep you up at night. And if you're cost plus and you think that $10 receipt didn't matter, but $10 receipts become $100 receipts, become thousands of dollars times 12 months. So if there's one thing I can challenge you to do this year, come up with a receipt management process, stick to it. Every Tuesday, I'm going to put the receipts in this folder. ideally it's a virtual folder, but if it isn't, start somewhere and start with receipt management, even if it's just tracking them on paper. And then step 2 is, okay, now I have to use cost inbox or I have to use my phone, but receipt management will, bury you real quick. So start there, because then the rest will start to fall in place. Because, managing subcontractors, I would say, is the next thing. Like, when are you paying them? Don't just pay them every time they walk into your office. Like, remember, you know what I mean? Like, don't let them have that control and say, I pay you on Fridays, because you're not going to throw a bill on my desk on Thursday and Wednesday. Now I feel like I have to review it. And now you're adding stress versus give them deadlines. Your invoices are due to me on Tuesday. I will pay you on Friday if they're on my desk Tuesday by 4. Don't let them have that control and create stress, because their emergency should not be your emergency. And you can prevent that by saying, kind of setting some boundaries.
Amen. Structure is freedom. It's freedom.
Yes.
I'm glad this episode's going live on January 30th too. I think that kind of takes the pressure off. It's a good thing we didn't drop it like on January 1. It's proof you can pick a day, start any day. Like, it's the receipt management, the sub management, pick something and start now.
Start. Yep.
And if I could throw out too, like, I think at least the clients we work with and have worked with through projects, we've come a long way. I think if you think pre-pandemic and thinking of using technology and, outsourcing and looking at data in a different way, we've really come a long way. And I just kind of want to say, like, that's great. We're just continuously progressing as an industry as well. And there's just so much opportunity, and builders are just smarter. They're smarter with their money. They understand that they need to implement tools and processes. So it's just really exciting to see what the next few years will look like as well.
On the receipt management process, I did go back and look because I knew that we recorded an episode 189. If someone were looking for a good receipt management process, we had Amanda Greer on here with Popularis Construction that talked through how they use our cost inbox feature and scanning the receipts and the process that they put in place, not just for their internal employees, but also their subcontractors. So in the theme of you're not the only one that has this problem, if you want to hear from someone else, Amanda Greer, episode 189 was a fantastic one.
And it'll start to spark that interest. Like, it'll spark what works for you. You'll start to take things away. You'll hear things and you're like, I can do that. Right? I can do that. It'll empower you to be like, oh, that's easy. Like, you think it's bigger in your head and you hear someone start breaking it down. You're like, oh, you mean they just take a picture of it? Like, yeah, that's it. Like, just start, right?
Magic.
So absolutely listen to that.
Magic. We are way over time, but this has been fantastic. Note to end on, if our listeners want to learn more about 24-Hour Bookkeeper and the services you guys provide, where would be the best place for them to go?
Oh, lots of places. You can find us as easily as your Buildertrend contact, who you're working with. You can reach us at sales@24hourbookkeeper.com, 218-885-3100. Oh, we probably got a bunch of hashtags. I don't know what I'm missing, but you could probably talk to anybody around where you are, and you'll find us.
And we'll put some links in the show notes.
It's 24HR. 24HRbookkeeper.com.
Yeah.
Love that. Yep. We will link all of that in the show notes if people want to go. But again, the awesome thing about the partnership that we guys have is if they are working with someone from Buildertrend already, it's as easy as just saying, hey, put me in contact with 24-Hour and we'll be there the next day.
Just a phone call away.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome. Really appreciate the time. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Charlie.
Well, we just had Karine and Michelle from 24-Hour here on The Building Code with a fantastic interview. They were incredible guests and super motivating. Like, for myself personally, I'm like, hey, I got to get my personal finances in order. So hopefully any construction business owners out there were equally motivated to get their business finances in order.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from our listeners. Like, if you wear an Apple Watch, like, check your blood pressure. This episode, there's something about financial management that's always been stressful to me. I used to have a small business, and tax time would come around. You'd be like, I hope I kept every receipt. And I can only imagine that to like the 100th degree for our customers who are managing very expensive builds and very expensive projects. But I feel like Michelle and Karine just like brought some calm and some like confidence to the topic that I hope, our builders feel it when they work with them, or they work with our tools like Cost Inbox, getting those receipts under control. I thought that was really interesting. That was one of Michelle's tips. Like, start here. It seems so simple, but yeah, I know the feeling of like, where is that receipt? And oh, I'll just eat the cost of this $10 purchase and this $10 purchase. And then before you know it, you're like, wait, did I make any money?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, me personally, I still have receipts in my wallet from our trip to Boston that I was going to expense. And at this point, I think it's probably too late. So I'm just going to eat it like the $20 burger I bought or whatever. But
shame.
I know if I was using Buildertrend, I could have just scanned that receipt, put
Just
it straight
take a
into my
picture.
Cost Inbox. I didn't have Wix at the time.
Oh, darn.
But yeah, awesome interview, awesome people, awesome company. Hopefully everyone that listened found value out of that. But if not, like Karen said, go out to 24hrbookkeeper.com. They have tons of free resources, or you can schedule a call with them. Otherwise, you got anything else, Courtney?
Well, yeah, I think they'll be at the Builder Show as well. So just another plug for the International Builder Show. So excited in Las Vegas at the end of February. We'll put a link in show notes. If you're coming out to Vegas, hit our website because we have free expo passes so you can come visit our booth. And at our booth for all 3 days, the first day we're going to be talking a lot about purchasing. Second day is financial management. Our third day is homeowner expectations. But this year, I don't know what it is. In the last year, it feels like we have made so many amazing connections with partners like 24-Hour Bookkeeper, Breakthrough Academy. We're going to have a lot of helpful resources and experts in our booth. So you can come out and meet the teams there. They'll be there. You can learn about, if you heard about our receipt management options, like we could show you what that looks like. But come out and see us in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. I feel like your goal is to get everyone in the nation out to Vegas for the International Builder Show.
Yeah, and I want them to come looking specifically for us. Ask for Charley and Courtney at the
Mention
front
the
desk
building code for some free swag.
so we can keep doing this forever. So the best part of our job is talking to experts like this and hearing their stories. It always makes me, I don't know, I come away feeling inspired. And I love how they also talked about like their love for the construction industry. Just saying that we all have that in common. Like we like making your lives easier. So come and celebrate with us.
Come and celebrate. But you don't have to wait until the Builder Show to hear from us again. We'll be back next time on The Building Code.
Yep. So make sure that you're subscribed, you're rating, you're reviewing the podcast. Find us on Instagram. Wherever you stream your podcast.
Love it. Let's wrap it. I'm Charlie Vesel.
And I'm Courtney Matern.
Peace. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.